forth to. But we've asked them and asked them many times, how do you stay unpredictable? So we'll have to see if they can do it this deep into Super Week after all of these games have been watched by every one of these teams.
Dignitas is going to be unpredictable right now. And I say that only because they haven't found a strategy that works for them. So
it's true.
The
they
other
have
teams,
them, but
the
they
other teams don't necessarily
consistently
have anything to scout because you scout the other team's recent successes. And Dignitas hasn't had recent successes. Yeah. So in a way, in a strange, twisted way, they're hard to scout. They just have to improve themselves by a large margin.
So the Taipei Assassins came out with.
Yeah.
They were able to just, nobody knew them.
But honestly, for some of these longtime teams that have been on tilting for a little while, I almost kind of just want to point out, like Gambit Gaming over in Europe, who were on a late game slide. They started boot camping right before Super Week to lead into their GamesCon regional playoffs, and they're 4-0 in their Super Week right now. Dignitas will have to do a similar thing before PAX in their 2 weeks if they want to make a big stride there, because maybe not. Maybe we'll see some crazy turnaround here and they'll beat CLG and come in on a 2-game winning streak, but they haven't looked very good recently.
There's a lot of variations that go into these matchups, whether the last time they played was on a different patch a few weeks ago, different champions coming out, like we see Dignitas not running Aatrox after the few times they did run it. Maybe it was composition specific.
I like Dignitas' Aatrox picks, actually. I thought KiWiKiD was actually quite good at him. It allowed Dignitas to kind of all pile in and continue the chase, which is the way they win when they're doing strong. And that's kind of why CLG banned Lee Sin, Caston, and Gragas, because those are all extended chase champions that Dignitas likes to play on Scarra and Crumbzz, but they can't when they're banned like that.
Banned or picked as well. A few of those going on to the side. A lot of KiWiKiD and Ezreal have been matching up together. He likes to do his own builds, going into it with the Brutalizer into such. We'll have to see what they can choose on the Crumbzz side. Crumbzz liking the Lee Sin quite a bit lately. They had to ban out the Jarvan, the Nocturne on their side. And the Zac is already picked, but that's kind of the ambiguous. We don't know where it's going yet.
So what does Scarra have left then? Because he's been playing a lot of Caston and Gragas lately, since they're actually relatively similar in the way they play. Ryze and Ori.
He did play Ori, but it's probably on the bottom of his list.
It's on the bottom tier. His Ryze has recently been nerfed as well. All the spell ranges on Ryze,
Zed,
instead of being around 600, got nerfed 600 straight. Zed is a distinct possibility for him because that's what he has a lot of success on. They're waiting a little while.
Yeah. They want to get a good counter. They, knowing that Scarra can carry the game, why not make sure he's more comfortable?
The game too. Yeah,
that just makes sense. Link has been a formidable player. One of the, definitely a name when you say CLG, people say Link
nowadays.
Yeah, carrying games, doing what he can. Quite an exquisite champion pool, if you will. And he plays all of those champions at a very mainish level, if you were to say. So he goes with his Ahri, and that is deadly. So the Zed pick may come out just for the assassin versus assassin here.
I love it when Link picks Ahri. I think it's his best champion. It allows him to make individual plays, which creates opportunity for CLG, which even though CLG is great in team fights, they typically don't have any playmakers outside of Doublelift. So even if Doublelift goes and pulls off a 1v2 or something, no one else is really doing anything, but when Link is on Ahri, it gives them that new element and just a new dynamic to their team. So, very strong pick there for CLG. What the? Jungle Pantheon. Yep.
I'm waiting, because I remember seeing Fizz come into these compositions a few times, but it wouldn't be what they needed now. So we'll have to see what they decide to lock in. Jungle Pantheon is something that Big Fat pulled out a few of the weeks ago.
It's good. Jungle Pantheon has some strong ganking potential and a Xin.
Haven't seen Crumbzz in a good few weeks.
Mid? Pantheon? Jungle Xin? Shinsao?
That's weird.
Yeah. It is weird. We're going to figure this one out once again. Detective Riven Chat on the case.
Pantheon, like, more so Talon were all the AD casters that people would take to counter AP mids, right? But this is really telegraphed into this. These are professional players, so he's going to be running the right runes. It's not going to be like you're catching somebody on solo queue.
He can put a lot of extra armor into his build here, since the only magic damage threat on the team is a tank.
Yeah.
So every solo laner for CLG is most likely popping in those armor quintessences, and they're going to be bringing rune pages with 25 armor just to destroy laning phase. This is bold move. by Dignitas.
Everybody.
Of course
CLG is taking a lot of time on this because us and them are thrown for a loop right now. So
yeah,
trying to figure out. They already have the Thresh, so this is going to be the top laner. Nien not getting Zach, not having, well, Elise is on the team, but you're not going to see Malphite jungle. He needs to get too much in the lane.
Yeah, you're right. Mid Pantheon, I think, is the story here. That makes the most sense. I just had to realize that. It's like,
didn't expect that.
Okay. Let's check out what Scar's running here.
All right.
Rune-wise, pretty standard. He's actually opted for mana regen per 5 yellows instead of any armor because Pantheon needs that to spam spears. Then he's got physical damage, quints, and armor pen reds. But on the flip side, what's Link going to be running against him? Is he going to go defensive? And no, kind of. Link hasn't brought extra armor, but he's brought extra ability power. So he has flat ability power blues, which gives him 26 AP total. Then he's got armor in his yellows and magic pen in his reds like usual. So look for Link to actually fight back at Scarra in that lane.
Link to be putting on some Doran rings quickly in the early part of this game so he can trade back and forth. Something that, you know, with Pantheon's passive is what was the amount of, you know, if you do it right, you can take a few turret shots before really even accepting that damage.
Yeah, I remember how I don't remember exactly how you can do it, but there is a way on Pantheon to block 3 turret shots in a row.
If correctly done.
Yes.
It's not just going to, you're not going to happen and walk in there. All right. We'll have to see if that is in Scarra's belt or bag of tricks to pull out within this matchup. It's definitely going to be a different game. It's not a Karthus in the mid. He's going to have to leave the lane at 6, and he's going to have to walk out of it since it's not a pure global ultimate.
I think it's the same range as Twisted Fate's ultimate, so he just needs to fall back a little bit and then go.
Out of lane.
Yeah. This should be some action-packed Scarra Pantheon.
I'm absolutely excited. We talked about Champion Scarra can go into full form on. Pantheon isn't a super scaler into the late game, so that full form better come quite early into the matchup as we head into the game. Counter Logic Gaming versus Dignitas. Quite an interesting composition here come from Dig. We'll have to see how it works as we are on to our 6th match of the day and on to the Rift.
And I wonder if this is going to be like the last game a bit between Vulcan and Velocity, where Dignitas will come in thinking they're just going to do this cool thing. But then just CLG will actually have a strong early game strategy and just kind of catch them for a loop because Dignitas is so wrapped up in the Pantheon. They're not actually thinking about the regular game sense things.
Scarra knows exactly what he's up against, but he typed it out. He's like, I know you like this, Link. Just please don't come to lane with Cloth 5. And he hasn't. He got himself some mana, but he did buy that cloth, so
yeah,
Link's going to rush
I'll go to lane with Cloth 4 and a mana potion.
Love the little chats between these guys and the GGs. We'll see what they do for the early part of the game. Like we said, Scarra's going to have to get going early. Whenever Scarra's on a Kassadin-like champion, Crumbzz focuses that mid lane, so we'll see if they do any coordination of such. KiWiKiD is going to be by himself on Zach in the top, and it looks like we will not get standard lanes to start.
Not in the slightest. But we do have KiWiKiD 1v2 against Doublelift and Chauster. Chauster playing about his millionth Thresh game this split. He's really became strong on that champion. And this game is
turning around the meaning of death sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he threw those and usually died. Now he gets kills with them.
This is very true.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword, that spell. I think this game's going to be mostly about whether or not Scarra can get going on Pantheon here. He can Crystalline Flask early to try to keep up with spear spam on Link, but Link, as we said, with all that AP, is going to be fighting back as much as possible.
Link rather, leveling up that Foxfire first. He is going trade for trade, and right now, it's going to be Flask versus Potion, so those consumables are not rechargeable here for Link. He's going to be continuously spending money on that. We get the invade coming on the other side, and we'll be looking for Big Fat.
But actually, okay, Big Fat's going straight for the blue buff. Going to be another one of those trades, and I wonder if this is going to transition into early turret dives or early turret pushing. Imaqtpie's not been pressing wave words, Riv, pushing up that wave quickly, and Yen checked preemptively and got really hurt here. He does not have a good retreat path at all from this turret.
2 auto attacks.
He's in a lot of trouble. Yeah, he's got to get out of there.
He's teleporting.
Bye.
He's like, look at me. I'm out. And he will back from that position. This turret obviously not going to take as much damage, and this is why it was implied. The laning phase will stay.
But
they're going to have quite a bit of time.
They're going to get that turret.
Yeah, they're going to have quite a bit of time.
Since bigfatlp is nowhere to be seen, and Nien used to teleport to escape instead of get back. That's a very fast turret. The fastest turret previously taken was actually Dignitas taking one in... I'm going to get killed if I miss a stat. I believe it was 324. So 15 seconds later this time, Riv. But they got it.
It's close.
It's that armor.
If somebody goes back and finds that besides our guys, I'll give them kudos.
Yeah.
5.2 already to 4.5. A 700 gold lead gain from that. It's called Global Gold, and it's now in the hands
they can't do this.
of Dignitas. They are trying to velocity their way, but they don't have any plans.
No, so they did get the early turret, and KiWiKiD stopped his from going down entirely. I don't know if KiWiKiD can hold this much longer because he has no help. Again, Dignitas going harder on that dragon. This is a very risky move. bigfatlp and Nien may try to harass this a little bit, but this is some dangerous stuff.
They have the heal. You have a lot of lockup if this fight goes down. Crumbzz being on that Xin Zhao because he likes the early aggression. Just below half health is Dragon. They lose the turret there, but that's equaling out the turret previously, so Dragon goes in the lead of Dignitas.
Good place by Dignitas right there. They very aggressively forced that Dragon. Link actually went back and shopped. I believe Scarra, I might get this wrong, Scarra pushed him out of lane, and that's one of the big reasons they were able to get back. Did I miss something there? Did he get caught in the jungle?
Remember we saw Crumbzz coming right above the blue buff? He actually came back out of the jungle. That was from the whole Nien in the bottom lane forcing him out. So it was kind of an elongated strategy that continuously worked out for them. 5 minutes in, Dignitas loses their turret, which means the map control really isn't going in anybody's favor, but that objective control, due to the composition, right now in favor of Dignitas.
Yeah, and Scar is going to want to keep pressuring Link here. The minion kills in that lane are very close. I have to say there's a huge discrepancy though between Doublelift and Imaqtpie. 41-19 in their respective 2v/3v1 lanes. And it just means that Doublelift's done a much better job farming along with the split pushing when compared to Imaqtpie.
You got the 3-man roam already going on. Big Fat is all the way towards the top side, so CLG very split here, and again, Dignitas wants to make a move somewhere.
Yeah, they have to do this with Pantheon. They're not going for a late game against Malphite and Doublelift. It's not a smart strategy for them. They're going to continue to group up and mob. Everything on Dignitas' team right now is early game focused, especially once Imaqtpie gets that Blade of the Ruin King on Vayne. COG needs to mimic and stall this as long as possible.
Scarra doing one of our favorite things, getting all the swords to point to the right in his inventory here. Looks like he's trying to build up his longsword's brutalizer, finish up something for himself here. What is the main build of a Pantheon, especially when you're in lane?
He's going to be going for Black Cleaver, and then maybe Last Whisper afterwards. He's trying to get as much armor pen as possible, and all those things can build into that. He might go for a random Vamp Scepter as well, just for sustain, which is why the longswords are good. When he went back to base, he didn't have enough money for a straight-up brutalizer, so he just decided to build a third longsword because he could use it later.
Recipeing multiple items together at the current time. Scarra taking a bit of damage there. You can see those abilities not popping that shield on him. That's from a melee attack that comes out of a champion. So he'll have that free block. Also works for a turret, and then he'll be able to go in for the dive. And the work with Aegis is kind of the thing that buffs that back up on its passive. So we'll see again if Scarra can do that double block dive. 7 minutes in. It's just KiWiKiD and Doublelift back and forth here. It looks like Chauster's finally going to roam back up and assist in the 80 carry.
Yeah, they're going to probably enter into a bit of a farming phase. CLG doesn't need to do any initiating. And in a sense, Dignitas' strategy is kind of playing into CLG's hands because CLG has a bad tendency of only playing reactively. But in this case, playing reactively may be their best chance of winning, so it's something they're very used to doing, at least.
Ping's going down. They know a lot of movement's happening. Actually, Link wants to check this. Being quite aggressive, puts a ward down. He put a ward down over the wall. Scarra was just a little cat and mouse around the wall out of vision.
Good steal.
Yep.
Right now, CLG is just going to go try and get the same for themselves, though. Secondary steal, and since Dignitas invested so heavily in getting the CLG blue, CLG easily gets the Dignitas blue back and turns into a trade.
Scarra looking to get this lane pushed up a little bit here. It doesn't look like he's trying to pressure it out, so I don't think we're going to get a man jump from him too soon. That grand skyfall from him is what it's called when he ultimates away. You'll see a giant circle on the ground. It's a crushing Pantheon. Where will he use it first? It's kind of tough because Elise can repel. Ahri, Ahri's just going to hop away. So he's got some decisions to make. He could jump right into a thresh box. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah, specifically because Link is in the mid lane here and is able to gap close so close to Scarra and interrupt him from his Grand Skyfall. It's stopping his ability to gank freely. And since Pantheon can't wave clear nearly as quickly as Ahri, it's giving Scarra some trouble. I'm just waiting to see what Dignitas has planned up for this one.
Teleport to the bottom lane.
There's the teleport.
It's going to be Nien coming in. He is waiting to use that unstoppable force. They know they don't have to use too many ultimates. And the ground slam, first blood to Nien off the teleport.
It's good that they did that because Nien wasn't creating any ground against KiWiKiD. Since CLG had already lost the turret in the top lane, it was smart for Nien to go down because he wasn't putting anything at risk, but only getting a possible benefit. And picking up Crumbzz gives him that nice 600 gold of the first blood.
The gold somewhat evening out here. That dragon being nullified. Now only becoming a timer for both of the teams to react on. 40 seconds for that to come back up. Who is going to actually, at this point, the level 6s, some people aren't going to have that dragon fight, advantage.
No, this is very curious. I think so much of it will have to do with the initiation and how spread out people are. Because if Scarra gets going a little bit, especially now that he's able to shop and actually pick up some real items, I'd say this is the fight that Dignitas absolutely wants to take. Crumbzz has, all ultimates except Crescendo are up for Dignitas. If Patoy could somehow farm before this dragon fight, he's not that close to level 6, but if he could get that Crescendo, I'd say Dignitas would have a huge edge in the dragon fight. And it's specifically what Dignitas wants to force right now, because they're not making it past 40 minutes and winning this game with Xin and Pantheon on the same team. This is definitely something that if CLG can control, almost wins them the game here.
These compositions both shine the fact of whoever uses the ultimate first pretty much is going to lose. In the end goes in, then it's a man drop, it's KiWiKiD slingshot, let's bounce. There's so much, like you said, the crescendo as well. Everybody has to hit it perfectly for it not to go that way.
Yeah, it's very strong initiation and not the strongest counter initiation. You do want to use these skills first, and you can tell that this dragon is very important. CLG is actually forcing Dignitas in, but look for Nien to just all out of that as it comes.
Man drop in, it goes on to Doublelift, almost half of his HP right away, and that's a very nice Spirit Rush by Link to grab AoE damage on 3 members of Dignitas. But the focus is there after that front end burst. Dignitas is able to start cleaning up the Dragon Engage.
And they just keep chasing. Crumbzz has a charge in 3 seconds, but he backs away. 2 for 0 right there. Great drop there by Scarra, and it was not counter-initiated on by CLG because we said you initiate first and you win in this one.
They definitely did it right, and the placement of it pushed all of the members and didn't let them out of that dragon as well. CLG was like, we can either walk into man drop or kind of stay in dragon pit and take some damage. So great placement by Scarra. They've been waiting for that moment. Hopefully they're hoping they can continue the ramp up. We see Patoy, he didn't actually go for the slow power chord. He goes for the damage. I think he's going to be able to help himself out.
Well, he doesn't have the skill.
Doublelift.
He doesn't have the skill yet.
I like it. Oh,
no, Sonas don't generally put a point in E until later in the game. He's got 3 points in Q and 2 in W.
That's true.
So he couldn't chase. He was trying to kill him.
Especially the Vayne. Oh, man.
It was a nice game by Chauster there, getting away.
Going for the long haul, runs himself across the map, gets away, keeps the score. Only 1 death for CLG right now, but they still down 2,000 gold. That deficit not really coming in as any core items for one person. Both of those top laners very close to having their split push go up a little bit with the Sunfire Cape creation. Go ahead, look at the gold there. It's 300 gold to 900 gold, so KiWiKiD sitting on that if he wants. And he is going to go back.
And it's actually a Hex Drinker that Scarra gets with that third longsword. For now, at least.
It seems like a lot of Zeds, even mids, have been fitting that in before they go for the last burst item. Not last, but next burst item.
It's a really good item to fit in, just since you're doing assassination duel type things so frequently, and Ahri herself is an assassin. So the thing you're going to want to build, it's anti-burst, obviously, and just the straight-up magic resist for Scarra will help him when dueling Link, which is going to happen at multiple points during this game.
Always a pain in the butt when you calculate the last kill and somebody's Hex Drinker comes up. It can definitely turn a fight a little bit. Usually you're still going to die, but it gives you a second to breathe. 14 minutes on the clock. The wet noodle fight up top.
It's a level 10 versus a level 7.
Yeah, I just noticed that. It was pretty weird. That's, I think, why Nien kind of turned around.
Time to run away, man.
He is the only level 10. Even Link is level 9 right now, along with Scarra, so KiWiKiD has kept himself, as we've said this week, on vacation in the top lane. Just kind of holding his own.
And he's gotten that giant XP advantage in small part because at the very start of the game, Nien was more heavily denied when losing his turret from experience than KiWiKiD, and he's taken that through to keep that XP advantage up.
Boom! Unstoppable force across the wall. Crumbzz down to about a Pantheon. 4th HP, but here comes the man drop. The Grand Skyfall is just that. bigfatlp comes in to help. Link's Spirit Rush is able to help dwindle down and drop one. The 1-for-1 in Retributions, but will they continue? Will the greed get them? It's going to be KiWiKiD. One more shot, but he gets the blob to heal, and Link forced to run. They take the true shot barrage like men.
Yeah, and he still had his Cell Division up, so that was a safe dive there by Dignitas.
That's a scary dive. Cell Division blocked shots from the Aegis pass. Get out of here.
It's nice. Dignitas is pulling together the type of lead they may need to close this game early. They're going to need to continue to do dives like that, and actually, the more fights CLG tries to take there, I mean, Nien opted into that fight, knowing he had a 3-level disadvantage, and knowing that Scarra could ult in at any moment, was not the wisest fight to take. Dignitas is looking for opportunities to like that, and that's what CLG gave them there when they tried to start a fight.
A flash being expended as well there. Looks like Nien will use teleport to the top lane. So with Dragon in consideration, that's going to be a walk down for him before that cooldown comes back up. We'll see how CLG plays this one slow and steady with that TP being down.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a gank attempt here, but Imaqtpie has the Blade of the Ruined King now.
Oh.
So he is very hard to catch.
They get themselves to safety, and that would have been, I think, Scarra may be able to clean something up there if the fight did continue. He was preemptively heading down towards the bottom lane, knowing they were a bit too far up and may draw some attention.
Look at this. Scarra's Pantheon ultimate is up once again. And at this point in the game, Link is not necessarily keeping Scarra's lane shoved. So Scarra is free to look around for some of these, and it's giving Dig a bit of freedom. Scarra
with that blue buff. A 34% reduction, so a little bit more percent for him coming. It's going to help a little bit. It's only 99 seconds right now.
Throw a spear every 2.6 seconds if he wants
those
to.
are so annoying in lane. Nope. Don't give me a Pantheon. Let's trade the lanes. 4-2 here. 22-2 to 20,000 even. CLG just racked up that mark for themselves. The turrets a little bit slower after those first ones.
There's the dive up top.
Ooh, going in. Let's bounce onto Nien. He is still under-leveled on this one. Crumbzz is level 8, but 11-9 on the engage there. Yeah,
they're going to be able to get a lot of turret damage here. It looks like bigfatlp might think about the approach as there's no minions by the turret, but they'll get it. That's all because of that large level discrepancy that KiWiKiD has accumulated over Nien. It's allowing Crumbzz to really have free or unpunishable ganks up top, because even if a 2v2 were to erupt, it wouldn't be a problem.
Very interesting to see what Nien just did as he went back. I'm like, you have 1,300. Oh, Scarra, that only blocks the melee attack. You must run. There he is, coming in from the side. They take him down, and KiWiKiD pulls back the slingshot for this time.
And that's Link fighting back against Pantheon in the 1v1s, especially now with that Seeker's arm guard. Link can definitely hold his own against Scarra in a duel. It's mainly Scarra's ultimate that needs to be used now to differentiate himself for Link, because I don't think he can duel Link very well anymore.
And as we go back, just before that fight, I kind of made a whoop and said, wow, Nien, that's interesting. He looked like at 1,300 gold, had the chain vest, had the belt to go for the Sunfire cape, but maybe because he's behind, maybe because they want to start the fights, and obviously because they're against an extreme amount of AD, he's going to build a Frozen Heart. So
specifically, that Frozen Heart is because Xin and Vayne, more so than other AD carries and junglers, oh man, they're just going.
He arcane shifted out of that before he shot it, and it still wasn't enough. As soon as he cocked back to fire that one off, he's like, this was a bad idea.
Yeah, we'll get to that Frozen Heart in a second, because Dignitas is still pushing this on. Link's ultimate is yet to be up, and they're out of minions, so they're maybe going to get initiated on.
That'd be scary. KiWiKiD bought a Negatron cloak on the last back, so that burst is not going to be as formidable as it was before from Link. He is looking quite strong. The Fiendish on top of that Seeker is keeping him a little bit more tanky as he would like to be versus this 80-heavy team of Dignitas.
Sticking around maybe a little bit too long here. Gets the blue. They got to get out of there a little bit.
Oh, the Spirit Rush goes down, the Charm and the Death Sentence, one consecutively on the other. Chauster gets a good lockdown, but his health goes down as well, and he is forced to die. CLG looks like they're going to clean up some good kills here. Link does get the blue buff back from the entire thing, and they're cleaned up.
And the timing on this could not be worse. The Dragon has just respawned. Dignitas definitely overstayed their welcome there, and it gave Nien time to collapse down with that teleport that he just used there. So very good reactionary play by CLG. It's the type of play they like to do. Only because Dignitas did something silly was CLG able to make that big play.
And you can kind of see that the Dig mentality throughout that fight as they left wasn't to get anything else, because they smited the blue buff with Dragon coming back up, so they had no intention. They kind of zoned themselves into that and tunneled a little bit too much. So CLG getting a good swing there. Only 400 gold down now, even on turrets, and they've actually dropped Dig's mid turret, so that's quite a bit of map that's opened up over theirs.
You're absolutely right. Let's get back to that Frozen Heart.
Frozen Hearts, indeed.
Because that's our way that's our way of making action.
He got there quick after getting that.
Well, they got all those kills.
Right, yeah.
And the Dragon, that definitely helped them.
That's a good move, I guess.
So Xin and Vayne are much more auto-attack reliant than others, but they're not going to be hitting Malphite. They're going to be trying to hit everyone else, which is why he doesn't want to go for the Randwins. Instead, he wants to get that attack slowing aura, and that's why it's extra important for them to really just take down the damage of Dignitas right now.
The Warden's Mail as well. They're synergizing little bitty ways to slow down all this attack speed and the attack damage they're dealing with. We see KiWiKiD going for the more generic Vayne build to come out, not the Zephyr. He's going to be getting that Blade of the Rune King into just damage. Maybe he will start going for the Static Shiv, but Phantom Dancer for crit damage as well. What do you think? Since Doublelift is not disregarding the crit, but they're kind of...
Well, he's got the Brawler's Glove going right now, but here comes the dive.
Ooh, big fat flashed out. The man drop. The initiation, the thought of the initiation, you can see how much CLG respects here, even behind their own turret.
Yeah, and at least nobody died, and the turret was pretty much saved here, so they're able to at least stay safe there, and the longer CLG can hold this one out, the better it can become. I think Imaqtpie is going for that Static Shiv, though, because he's sitting on the Brawler's Glove right now. Probably building into that Avarice Blade for the Static Shiv.
Add that little bit of push to his kit. Crumbzz picking up mobility boots as we look around, and the Deathfire Grasp coming out onto Link. I really thought this was going to be a Zanya's a little bit quicker, but he goes for that. How dangerous is it to dive into this team and actually execute someone?
I think Link is going to be able to get away with it. He's very strong positionally with Ahri, because mostly Dignitas is diving onto Doublelift. They're not thinking right now about Link, and Link can go in with Nien to blow people up. That's just, it accentuates his play pattern right now as an assassin to be able to go in and just stomp out Imaqtpie.
Well, it was CLG to give this bottom lane quite a bit of credit. We heard Nien in the pre-clip before the game to say that bottom lane usually doesn't make any mistakes. They're one to play very strong, and right now, not behind, but not even as well. 196 to 180 in CS, 1-2-1 to 1-1-3, so it's evening out there. And the supports, 003 to 015. Scarra, very close. The Ignites go down. No help from anybody else. Oh, Big Fat is going to join into the party. KiWiKiD coming in quite late here. He is trying to get Crumbzz a little bit of aggression. There it is. Crumbzz now on to Nien. They're able to pick up 1-for-1 so far here. 23 minutes in, that evens up the score. Bit of a gold bump for Dignitas.
Well, that's the DFG fight that Link wanted to have, but he actually got the short end of that stick because he gave up a bounty, where Scarra is 1-2, so he did not have a bounty on top of him. That's a good trade for Dignitas overall, but at the same time, the game is getting later without huge advantages being picked up by Dignitas. So big picture-wise,
oh dear,
CLG's in pretty good shape.
Doublelift, you better bring out some of those card tricks and amaze these guys chasing you. There's one, the Arcane Shift. I don't believe that red buff is on Crumbzz, and he's going to have to make his way back into his jungle.
Doublelift isn't scared. He's actually level 13, going for his patented Bloodthirster into Iceborne Gauntlet build on Ezreal. He goes total Bloodthirster first, then builds a tier, so it's a very, very slowly progressing Iceborne Gauntlet Blue Ezreal build. He's only at 332 of his 750, 24 minutes in already on that Ezreal, so it's going to be a while before he gets that Muramana transformed. But that's okay for CLG, because they know that's when they have this game in controllable state.
Well, right now, they also have a controlled and warded jungle, the pink ward that they're sitting on right now, as well as a few on their exit. Dignitas will use this to hover towards the top side. They're not going to draw any attention, though. They are trying to dictate a push. Oh, Doublelift. Right on top of Doublelift. Oh, the Arcane Shift out. We have to say that Scarra still coming around. That's 116 seconds, so it's not short, but it's not too long.
In order for that ultimate to work, KiWiKiD had to jump in on Doublelift first and force a couple move blocks,
first escape.
But, you know, the flash was up, so he was able to just fly away.
Uh-oh. Everybody's kind of getting caught out here.
Yeah, Imaqtpie isn't near. He's trying his best to split push. Dignitas is actually getting a lot of overall turret damage out of that, so I gotta say, good work.
30 seconds on the Dragon, and 3 heading to bottom. No focus here coming yet. It's only going to be Doublelift to stop this, but if he meets 3 of them at that turret, he's not gonna.
No.
No.
And the last time Dignitas overstayed, yeah, there's the fallback pings. Don't stay in that blue buff area on the KiWiKiD. It's dangerous. They're staying. What is their game?
Oh, they're going to the other brush.
They think Doublelift is going to sneak down and farm. Imaqtpie he's trying to hunt Ezreal.
Don't get antsy.
Be careful. There's a lot of people there.
There's a lot of Shh.
Dragon's up.
They're going to go for it.
Yeah, they're just going to go for Dragon. There's no sneakiness right here.
Nope. But they are going to get pinched. This is Crescendo on one side.
Yeah.
Zac bounce from the other side.
No Pantheon ult.
Slingshot was just used for him to get over there, so it's not an instant initiation. Dignitas is going to want to hang out for a second.
Dragon's going down real fast. It's going to be a fight right away.
Or not. They go in, and instantly Crumbzz gets hit up quite hard with the Ahri Foxfire. The box goes down. This is great zoning on the fight. KiWiKiD from the back. 1, 2, kites back, gives it a roll. The third shot. The Silver Bolt's now to Big Fat. Another kill, or one rather, coming in for KiWiKiD. The last one is going to be Nien, and he is a magician.
That is exactly what Dignitas needed right there. That was a great job of spreading out so Nien could not shut down the priority targets. They killed Crumbzz, a full tank Xin, not what they needed to do. Imaqtpie was around the back with Patoy. The flank maneuver worked perfectly, and because they won that fight so handily, they're going to get a Baron off this one, and this enables Dignitas to maybe make some quick pushes afterwards.
The only time Dig will do Baron when 90% of the team is not on Summoner's Rift. They have got it for themselves at 27 minutes in, and it's 11-8 with a 5K lead.
4 people dead, half a Malphite. That's exactly what was left. 90% of their team. Man, that was great positioning by Imaqtpie in that Dragon fight. That was a little bit of a disaster for CLG. They were in complete control of the game up until that point where giving up the Dragon would not have cost them anything. But all piling in around Xin for a perfect ultimate, granting him tons of armor and MR, and making him nearly unkillable for the majority of the fight. That's what happened.
That'll help.
Didn't help.
Now up to CLG. Kind of figured out what to do in this. Dignitas likes this part of the game. The reason is they start to do that dictating of the game. Dem right against the Raw.
He's gonna try to ult out.
Coming from Scarra. And that's a shutdown. See that sword in the ground right between their names? That's a shutdown. Or their pictures, I guess.
This is scary for CLG. Dignitas taking down the primary source of armor for CLG for another 26 seconds, while everyone has Baron buff as well. CLG has a very difficult hold here if they want to stay in this game.
Split push going on. 3 in the bottom lane, 2 in the mid lane.
That helps. That was a lot of damage that went down on KiWiKiD, and KiWiKiD would be the primary dive source as well. The Baron buff and the fact that Zach regens so much is getting him up very quickly, but more poke like that is what CLG needs to repel this. Nien is alive as well. He's back.
And look at the strength that Crumbzz is, mentally bringing to this team. Walks up in front of 3 to hit a turret just with a wave as his team was backing. Dignitas knows they have a little bit of that room to play with right now, and they're seeing how much they can get out of Counter Logic.
And this 5,000 gold lead is not your regular 5,000 gold lead. It doesn't mean much. Just because Pantheon and Xin Zhao historically do not trend well with gold when compared to things like Elise, and specifically because they're against a Malphite who is just an armor monster later in the game. Dignitas has to go sooner rather than later. Otherwise, this advantage that they worked so hard to attain at that Dragon fight to Baron is going to be for nothing.
You have to consider that maybe they didn't. That Dignitas thinks, CLG loves to play for the late game. So why would they go and choose 2 very early game champions? Kind of resting, like I've been saying, a little too much. All your eggs in one basket. Yeah,
Dignitas they don't battle CLG at their own game. I mean, if you're just saying, oh, we got to pick late game champions because we're playing against CLG, you're playing CLG's game. And that's not necessarily what Dignitas wants to do. This is a bit far on one end of a spectrum, but it's the last game of the regular season. Why not try it out?
12-8, 30 minutes into this 6th game. We'll have to see what Dignitas can continue to do with the split push on. Both AD carries trying to do this.
And I should expand. I mean, they still have the Vayne.
Right.
And the Zac. 2 very strong scaling things, but it's just the fact that it's 2 strong scaling things with 2 not strong scaling things, where you look at CLG and they have 4 really good scaling things. That's why I keep saying it's so much late game focused for CLG.
And that's something we talked about for CLG as well, is they're having more threats, and Dig has kind of minimized theirs on this one to a few hard carries. We'll see if it works out. Doublelift already has that Iceborne Gauntlet on him. He's had it for a bit as he charged up that man immune. It's sitting at 652 to 750, so
getting there.
That'll help.
He needs his last whisper though to be able to cut through KiWiKiD and Crumbzz.
Good charm, a bit of a back and forth. Big Fat very nicely hitting those cocoons today. Just no follow-up ready to happen.
Well, the Baron buff is gone for Dignitas, but they're going to try to keep CLG contained to their base. They've been able to accumulate that 6,500 gold lead right here. This is, again, a very tense moment in the game. Just because the clock is ticking on, I think the clock is ticking on Dignitas. So much will matter on how Imaqtpie will position himself and play in the late game, but it's still a very scary moment.
See what Nien can put up here. There is a ping from behind. Nien puts the slow shard down the seismic onto Crumbzz. They were able to take out Crumbzz quite fast, like you said, being a full tank previously. Big Fat misses that. He throws down the ultimate. This is for just Crumbzz right now. The bottom of the map is being hit up by KiWiKiD. We'll have to see if Doublelift can stop him. With nothing but the mid push is going to come off of that.
Yeah, Doublelift was holding against KiWiKiD. He lost his flash and his barrier in that exchange. But it does seem like CLG has enough time to fall back and continue that defense, so good kill.
Very big call there. Nien.
Oh, it's the full dive right now!
Nien's very low on mana in the top lane, so he's got to go all the way to base to get back to even help here. Huge engage from Scarra, going all the way in. Chauster throws himself to the back line with an accepted death sentence. I don't think he wanted to do that with the team so far behind him.
And this fight is going to continue. The ultimates aren't really up. Dignitas might want to fall back from this.
There it is, onto Scarra, one of those long-range cocoons from Big Fat. Nien's in the front. Remember, he has the aura, so he gets a little bit more peel from the slowness. Not peel, but help, the utility on those auto attacks to slow them down for KiWiKiD, for Scarra, for Crumbzz. It looks like they will start to back out.
Alrighty, exposed inhibitor there for Dignitas. That's a very big step forward. They just decided to go in. And the positioning of Scarra's grand Skyfall on Pantheon coming in right behind that turret is what enabled them to get the zoning potential in that fight. CLG really just collapsed away from the turret. And since there was no Nien Malphite ultimate, CLG didn't necessarily have the counterattack required to stop that push.
Pretty crazy engages going on here. It's kind of telling the story that Dig, if they can get that initiation, a few things, but they weren't able to really follow up after it. Nothing came from it. So that may also mean that CLG is leveling out those fights and will soon be coming out on top.
It's becoming a very tough one to call because Dignitas' gold is scaling at about the rate which is required to keep pace with CLG's almost time scaling.
Right. They've definitely, I say definitely, not out-farmed them. 318 to 285, 236 to 209. You do have KiWiKiD, who hit level 18 far before anybody else in the game.
The farm is very close.
270, 247.
If we were to add it up, I think, just because it's like, you know, Doublelift always has more. Just
Patoy's going crazy.
Patoy's gone off the wall, 31. Got a palindrome of what Chauster's minion farm is.
He does. Very nice. Yeah. And he's also picking up a few core items for himself so he can start being more of an aggressor as well.
He's got a lot of magic resist. Holy wow. 110 MR on Sona.
Well, there are all considering it, right? One of Crumbz's favorite games. So last split, this is for everybody obviously,
yeah,
we put the players' games back-to-back in inventories, and there was always a Locket of the Iron Solari in Crumbz's inventory for that shield. Everybody here, like we said, buying for themselves, getting the shield from the Hex Drinker, a little bit here, Guardian Angel for Imaqtpie. It's a little bit more selfish, but it's working.
Yeah. Everyone's got their own individual fighting item.
Yeah.
I definitely see why CLG didn't go for an Aegis this game, because there's frankly not that much magic damage coming out from Dignitas, which is why they went with the Randwin's Frozen Heart combo. And even, think about, like, look at all the armor that they've got. Zanya's, Iceborne Gauntlets has a bunch of armor for Doublelift, even Ninja Tabi for Chauster. So they're definitely trying to prepare for this, but I mean, if they lose another fight here at 35 minutes, it's going to be huge. This is a Baron that CLG wants to check, and a fight that Dignitas wants to take regardless of Baron.
One team mitigating armor, one mitigating magic resistance, and the fight is initiated. The Grand Skyfall comes down. Link gets bumped and pushed, but he is out of the Zanyas. They all get to safety with relatively the same health. Doublelift's on the outside.
Yeah, but that was most of their ultimates used, aside from, well, no, it was just Link's ultimate used, but everyone got low, and Dignitas did not take that much damage. That might be enough to grant them this Baron. Doublelift might want to look and see, try to steal this with an ultimate.
Barrage. Nope. Right on by.
Good game sense by Dignitas. They need to continue to force like this if they want to come out on top in this game.
The kills very spread out for this team, and by that, it's either 3 or 2 kills for every person, and in fact 3 for Patoy right now, as he's getting himself, like we said, a little bit more of that magic resistance and able to stay in the fight more than usual. 13-9 here, 36 minutes in. The gold lead just about to hit 10,000. That's the lead for Dignitas.
So as Dignitas comes up out of the base and begins planning maybe another inhibitor assault, I want to talk a little bit about traps teams can fall into when they're going against one-dimensional team compositions. So right now, Dignitas has a one-dimensional team composition in the sense that they're all physical damage with a magic damage dealing tank. So the immediate thing the other team thinks is, GG, buy armor, we win. But the trap you can fall into when you do that is you itemize your armor before you consider actually killing the other team, and you just enable them to still pull off their strategy and win. And if we look at CLG's builds, Doublelift has finally gotten to a point where he can do damage, but for the first 36 minutes that wasn't true. Nien skipped his Sunfire Cape on Malphite, which meant he wasn't dealing damage on Malphite. No magic penetration on anyone except Link, because they went for so many Ninja Tabi. They somewhat trapped themselves into overly defensive builds against Dignitas, and they need to get some damage in there if they want to win this game.
We'll have to see if this situation works out for them. Maybe too little, too late. Dig coming out with 2 Guardian Angels now, and a KiWiKiD over the shoulder. The Grand Skyfall not to hit, but zones the fight. So the inhibitor's going down here. The fight might just follow. Repel goes in. Scarra very low. Not worried about popping that Zant or popping the Guardian Angel. Crumbzz gonna make it out alive. They get the inhibitor and make it out. Wow.
Nobody died. You know why?
Tell me.
A, because CLG was playing hyper defensively and it looked like Dignitas overdove. But even when Dignitas overdove, CLG did not have damage to repel them strongly enough. Yes, Nien never used his ultimate because he couldn't find a clean initiation, but it's because bigfatlp, we've seen so many jungle aces this week go with magic penetration for at least a little bit of damage. But full, like hyper full take, not even Sunfire Cape on bigfatlp or Nien, and the rush Zhonya's on link when previously he would go Deathfire Grasp to Death Cap or Abyssal Scepter, they just aren't having the damage punch that they necessarily need.
At this point, they have to see it themselves. Going into the engagement, the trades.
KiWiKiD?
Crumbzz taking a bit there. Crumbzz the only one without a Guardian Angel, but really having the most just strength to go in. He has no worries right now.
Dignitas is waiting a couple more seconds. They want Crescendo back up, and then they might look to reinitiate. They go pretty early. CLG is far from home right now.
Little baby slingshot there.
And the Baron buff is regenning Dignitas up to full health. CLG has to be very careful about whether they think about defending this turret or not, because if they get dove hard enough and lose enough people, they could lose the game right here.
And that is a gigantic wave in the bottom lane, consisting of the 6th and 7th member of Dignitas right now. Nien getting hit up, but it's going to be the block blitz out. The passive goes out. There's a Guardian Angel right here as well, but the rest of Dignitas does not feel sure about this fight.
No. That fight is not going back in!
Oh, Doublelift gets exploded there! The Crescent Slash coming out! The reinitiation, Unstoppable Force is just that, stopped as Nien goes down. Double kill coming in for Patoy. He's 5-0-7, giving Edward a run for his money on the week.
Charm by
it's
Link.
Going to be a hit. He's got the Guardian. There's the flip. Look at this. They're just going to dance it out. That's cute, ladies. Very cute. Nice job. Ace by KiWiKiD.
I think that's game. 40-second death timers and everyone from Dignitas. Super minions pushing off the bottom. Dignitas has won with mid Pantheon. That fight seemed like Dignitas decided not to go in. That's when the crescendo hit, completely catching CLG by surprise.
It's a composition, Jat, that looks like it creates a mosh pit instead of a war zone. As they pick up the win at 40 minutes into the game, there's no confused look on Scarra's face that time.
No. A couple people were confused when he picked that Pantheon, but it was all planned for Scarra.
And as I was saying, the mosh pit, the bounce up, it looks like they were going to throw people around, but you were right. Having KiWiKiD, having the lane that Nien respected in the pre-video and said that's something we need to shut down was the factor. Brought him in 3, 1, and 8, and we saw KiWiKiD really pulling through on those kills there.
Yeah, Doublelift looks a little flustered after that one as well, because they got tricked a little bit into those builds, and it totally backfired on later in the game. KiWiKiD's happy about that one.
Yeah, there's that smile. Only died twice that game. He's happy.
He's happy.
Staying above 6 feet.
It's the regular season, and that means they're tied now, aren't they?
Yeah, Dig won it. That's pretty big. So got TSM now has 3rd.
Yes.
So that equals out the brackets moving around. We knew that was going to happen this week.
Yeah.
And
so this means that Dignitas and CLG will become our 9th match of the day, so we can get the playoff seedings right, since they are tied and they are 2 for 2 on the season against each other.
A little bit extended coverage here.
Extended going all
have that
night.
extra matchup. So this game coming out for Dignitas, like we said, the mid Pantheon. We saw it before. It was actually bigfatlp that ran it in the jungle, but it seems, you know, people don't run, and not that he's a carry jungle, but they don't run carries in the jungle because you don't get as much gold, and it seems like it did help to have that influx of gold going into the mid-panth.
Well, we've definitely seen today and this week that Meteos is capable of just creating the carry jungle, but that's not Crumbz's or Dignitas' style, and Scarra got off a really tremendous E on Pantheon as Heartseeker strike right at the end of that last fight when everything was grouped up inside that crescendo, and really just wiped out most of CLG. I gotta hand it to Dignitas. That was a very surprisingly efficient composition.
They played it exactly the way they needed to. They didn't stop moving. Something that Dignitas has been plagued by almost, you could say, forever is halting at some part in the game, and that's what we were afraid of. When do they, you know, they take down mid turret and a top turret, and then if there's no dragon up, that team has the rest of that dragon time to get up back into the game. The dragon fight sways in the opponent's way. And that's where Dignitas usually finds himself, but didn't let it happen.
And the biggest thing as well for Dignitas is you saw how happy Scarra was, even though they'd already clinched the playoff berth there, in giving them potential momentum moving into the playoffs. And they're going to have another chance to get even more when they play in that 9th game of the day against CLG once again.
It makes the day even longer, a little bit more stressful, but definitely a smile on the face of Dignitas to carry him onto that.